Much of the stuff that I've been telling you is kind of a combination of things that I read from this book. This is a classic. It was written before, I think, all of you were born. Maybe Gerardo is the only one that was born. 89. Gerardo, how does that sound?
Yeah.
Were you born or not?
Yes, I'm 85.
Okay. So this is a classic. I read it for the first time last year. I heard about it in probably I found the quotes in different places. Great book, amazing. And one of the things that became obvious to me is that this thing of effective conservationists are actually effective people doing conservation. So everything about effective people is quite applicable to what we do. Okay, so good book. Okay, eh, were you able to read the few pages that I sent you on PDF?
Yep.
Ricardo, yes. Gerardo,
Yes.
Yubica, yeah. Ian,
Uh,
excellent. Okay,
uh,
so let's take a look at that.
as
Okay,
you
we,
say,
we
yes.
perfect. Yeah. I hear you. Yeah. Uh, so we have four types of tasks in which we spend time. Okay, four ways to spend our time. Things that are important, things that are not important, and the important things, some of them are urgent. You need to do them right now, and others are not urgent. And then we have things that are really not important, but they are happening right now and they are urgent. For example, you are concentrated doing something and someone calls you, but no, it's not something that you need to answer at that time, okay? Or a WhatsApp message that gets in, or an audio from WhatsApp, or you are reading a report that you don't need for your work particularly, but they tell you to read it or they tell you to write it, okay? So these are things that are urgent and you have pressure to do them at the moment and they are non-important. We're not going to spend time talking about things that are non-important and are not urgent. That's the classic package of procrastination, okay? So it's like, okay, I'm going to do something that I don't need to do. I mean, I'm gonna be watching TikTok videos for 2 hours because I don't want to work. I need to rest my mind or whatever. Uh, I'm gonna be watching another thing that is not particularly useful or beautiful, but it's just a way to spend time. Okay, and then we're gonna focus today very much on this. Okay, on things that are not urgent and are important. Something that came to me through these sessions is the higher you go in your organization, the more responsibility you have, the more people that respond to you, the more you're going to have to really prepare to invest on this. Because if not, you're going to be sucked down by the other things. I mean, if you are a basic ranger or if you are a hand work in Patagonia, working just for construction, and you just wait for people to tell you what to do. You show up there at 8 in the morning. When the day is over, you go and you don't need, and you work mostly here. Things that they tell you to do and that are important. You don't have to plan your day and your life very much. Actually, you don't have much control of your life, except that you work in a certain time amount of hours, and then after that, you go home, you watch TV or whatever. The challenge with us, I mean, the people who are in this program, is that in general, we have too many things to do. Okay? We feel that we have too much on our plate. And that's when it becomes important to know the difference between these four things and to be strategic about it. Okay? Examples of quadrant two activities. We can call them quadrant two or category two, whatever. Okay. These are things that are important for you, but they are not urgent. What do we do with them in general? We tend to postpone them. And in some cases, we never do them. Okay. Doing physical training with your team members. Okay. This is what the people who were in Gonaresu, that's what we saw. Okay. Ian, Gerardo, and Chubica who were there. We saw how the Rangers were running together. So you will see the well-fit rangers, and then you saw the rest of the staff having a good time, laughing, pumping some blood. So it was something that it was important at a physical level. It was clearly an integration tool to strengthen the team. What happened? Ian observed that and said, okay, we're going to do the same in Akagera. So we went to Akagera, Lucas and Ricardo, Lucas and Gerardo. I don't remember.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, Lucas and Gerardo and Ricardo. Yeah. And we no, it was Ricardo. Ricardo was in the first group.
Kevin, Lucas, Ian, of
I'm
course.
sorry. I'm sorry. Ricardo was in the first group. I'm concentrating now. Okay. So in Akagera, we were running with the people, something that Ian has copied from Gonaresu, and it was very clear. You will see again the powerful runners of the Rangers, some of them with the guns, and then you will see kind of the less trained people working in the office that will be running a little on the back. But there was a clear feeling that we take care of you, so they will wait for them. Nobody was laughing at anybody. There was a kind of feeling of we take care of our own. Everybody stretching together. So that was an example of something that was important, that created very significant benefits for the group, but it was not urgent. So you need to plan it, okay? Another example is quarterly planning sessions with your team, okay? Gerardo as sub-coordinator or whatever of Rewilding in Rewilding Argentina, he gets together every 3 months with the team members. That's something that Xavier talked about clearly in the previous session, okay? Plan and take decisions with your team, decide the objectives together. That's what provides that sense of autonomy that we talk about. So you have to dedicate time for that. I remember when I work in Ibera, we look for the right place to do it. Out of the office, we had planning meetings in a swimming pool. I remember 7 people together in the swimming pool, thinking, okay, what are we gonna do with that and that and that. That's a quadrant 2 activity. Okay, typically your bosses are not gonna be putting pressure on you. You need to do the quarterly planning session. Your colleagues are going to say, I'm too busy. Can we postpone it? The people who work for you. So you have to be adamant about doing that, okay? Having high quality conversation with peers, okay? So it's like Lucas and Gerardo, they say, okay, tomorrow, instead of just doing whatever, we're going to go for a walk, and then we're gonna talk. We're gonna have our mate, and we're gonna dedicate 4 hours, no agenda, no executive decisions, and we're just gonna see what happens. We call that in Ibera reuniones de camioneta, truck meetings. Okay, so you have 4 hours to go from A to B. You have mate. You have much more time that you need for an executive meeting, and things start popping out. Creativity, problems, potential conflicts. Someone tells you, I think that this person is not very happy. Why? So that's high quality conversations, okay? I remember being in Australia with two of the female members of AWC in New Haven, in the Central Desert, and just sitting around the fire with 2 of them. We can kind of finish our main conversations, but that moment of 2 hours around the fireplace, that was high quality, because that's when the surprises happen, okay? Planning and implementing celebrations after major achievements. We talk about that also with Xavier today, okay? I mean, 70 rhinos, that's huge. I'm sure you've been planning the movement of the 70 rhinos for months, more than $5 million. Ian said, you better have someone planning how to celebrate that when that's done, because it's going to be lots of stress. People are worried. You've been working hard for that. I mean, and you need to plan that. You need to reserve time for that, because if not, the current is going to take you and you're not going to do it. It's the kind of things that you say, we should have done it, but you didn't do it. So typically 2 celebrations per year with your team, end of the year celebration, some excuse, a training course in our case will be an excuse. Notice how in every of our courses at the end we celebrate because we achieved something together. Okay. Visiting other projects. Okay. Taking the time to go and visit other organizations, learning from them. I hope that Ian can take a plane and go to South America and learn from the South Americans. The same in the other direction. Chuvica and the South Americans, they are planning to get together in October. That's what you're planning to do in October is clearly a quadrant 2 activity. Your bosses are not asking you to do that. Probably you will have to convince some of them to give you time. In other cases, they will cover your expenses. In other, okay, I will cover them myself. So that's a quadrant 2 activity. Investing in training, okay? What you are doing now and what you did 2 hours ago, nobody was putting pressure on you because it was urgent, okay? Because that's something that for you was important. Take time to think about what's important for you. Dedicate time for you to think what you like, what you don't like, where do you shine most, what are our weaknesses, our strengths. You can do that walking, bicycle, driving, cooking, running, but creating that time to think about what's important for you and for your organization, okay? At many levels in your case, family, friends, loved ones, colleagues, reading books that help you to become a better professional, okay? I mean, we started with a book at the beginning that takes discipline. Some people like reading more than others. For some people, reading is part of our lives. I cannot live without books in the same way I cannot live without nature or music, for example, or friends. It's just part of my habits, okay? But you need to dedicate time for that, okay? So reading things that are important for us and that improve us as professionals or people. Sharpening the axe. This is a term that Covey, the guy on the book, uses a lot. Is working on ourselves and recharging our batteries and Ricardo is there, okay. Yeah, recharging our batteries and at a physical level, doing exercise, mind, reading, watching a beautiful movie. I mean, something that Shaver said today is the power of mixing things, okay, being multidisciplinary. For me, enjoying high quality art, mostly music and movies, it will be the top things. It's very important for my life, and I get inspiration for work through art, okay? Being in nature, in all our cases, is very important, getting out of the office. Another kind of quadrant 2 activity is sharing a meal, weekends with your families and friends with important people, okay? This is the opposite of what I remember Douglas Tompkins doing, which was eating in front of the computer while writing something, okay? Okay, this is about closing the computer, connecting with someone at a good level. If it's people that are not related to work, better, family, friends. But if you do it with a colleague in a good quality, and I've seen that in Rigualdi in Argentina, just disconnecting from what you are doing, but just playing some music, drinking, all that. Those things are important, okay? Family sitting together and talking about family issues without looking at the telephone all the time. That changes your quality of life and your brain and your batteries, okay? Having a cup of coffee with the local mayor, that local authority that is critical for your project. In the case of Chuvica, who works at a national level, yes, calling the Ministry of Environment or whatever of protected areas. Hey, we haven't talked to each other for a while. I'm going to go to the office. Why don't we have coffee? And this is different from the classic executive meeting, okay? An executive meeting is something that you do it on Zoom in many cases, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, you go to the point, or you go to the office and you have something to discuss. It's about having a, let's rate it also to the high quality conversations, okay? And also helping other parts of the organization in activities that make a significant difference for the overall mission, okay? Sometimes we get requests from many people and we need to know when to say, okay, I don't need to do that, but also be generous. Yeah, I mean, if I go and I give this talk in the local school or to this local group, and I'm helping the people in education who is not my team, but they are part of the larger team, that will make a difference. Okay, it's not urgent, but it could be important. Okay, so this is all examples of quadrant 2 activities. Look at this. I think this is a good visual metaphor. Okay, if we invest in things that are urgent and important, the amount of energy we invest and the return is equal. Good. If we invest in things that are urgent but are not important, we get very little return. Of course, if we invest time in things that are not important, are not urgent, we're wasting our time. The best example right now, I think, in our society is people who have told me, yes, I can spend 2 hours on TikTok and I don't remember how it happened or why it happened. I don't know if someone has told you that, but I heard it twice. And TikTok, it is designed for that. You know, it's like, I don't do TikTok, okay? But I see my daughters. It's like, you go for one, then that brings you to another. And it's like if they give you sugar pumps, like pop, 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 and you become addicted, and one leads you to another. And it's like, what the hell? I started at 3 p.m. and it's 5 p.m. and I have a meeting right now. How did I get here? Okay. The return you get is zero or minimal. The main advantage is that you don't do what you don't want to do. Okay, great. But if we focus on things that are important and they are not urgent, then we get the highest return for our energy. Okay. Okay. Many of us, many conservationists, we tend to live mostly on quadrant 1. Okay. That's the basic situation for people in 30, 40, and as I was telling your colleagues, I know people who are conservationists that I respect a lot, very, very good conservationists, that they totally live at this level. And you listen to them and they are stressed all the time. They don't feel to have control of their life. There's a Spanish expression that I hear a lot in Spain. Luckily, they don't use it in South America. No me da la vida, they tell me. It's like, I don't have enough life. And I hear this from someone who is 60 years old, who's a CEO. And my reaction after hearing that 3 times is like, I don't know, man, if you don't know how to manage your life being 60 now, when are you going to learn it? And they say it like with a mix of impotence and kind of pride, like, I'm so busy, man. Okay? I wouldn't be proud of saying I don't have enough life. I mean, we all know the rules. The day has 24 hours, we have to sleep. It's up to us to manage the days. I mean, nobody else is going to manage for us. So if we live in quadrant 1, results, stress, burnout, we are always managing crisis. So we are always managing crisis. For some kind of personalities, and that's related also with the colors, some people really love to live in crisis because that's where they shine, okay? For other personalities, it's much more stressful. I mean, almost everybody who's not an orange, in general, they feel stress. We are always putting out fires, and in general, this leads to poor or stress relations with colleagues. Generally, if you are living in quadrant 1, sometimes we snap out, we react very quickly. Someone says something that we don't like, and we can become rude, okay? And in general, this is one of the classic sources of problems at home when people talk about lack of balance. Okay, I feel that my work life, it is soaking up the energy for all the other aspects of my life, and I have problems at home. And the examples of very good conservationists that don't have a good family life, there are many of them. Okay, and they regret it, but you talk to them, and the feeling is that they don't know how to do it. Okay, how to get back to a situation that will give them that balance and that sense of, yeah, having a good relation with their children and partners. Okay, if we live in quadrant three, okay, which is doing things that are urgent, people, they're popping all the time, and people tell us to do, or they tempt us to do, but they are not important. In general, we lose perspective. We don't have a real plan of our life. We have no plans or goals. Again, we're always managing crises. We tend to have a poor reputation compared to this group, okay, because we don't deliver results. This leads to shallow or broken relations. And compared to these people who feel like heroes under pressure but doing heroic things, they tend to feel more victimized, and they have no control of their life, and everybody's against them because they don't understand them. Okay, so, but if we are able, this kind of what you see here is what could be the ideal situation when we get to a certain level of responsibility. Okay, to spend most of our time doing things that are important but they are not urgent. So we manage them before they become a crisis, or we invest in ourselves or in organization, in the relations, so we prevent the crisis. And of course, there are things that you cannot postpone. There are deadlines. They are urgent and important, that we have to do them. But it's much better to live in this world than in this world. Okay, so what we're going to talk about is how to try to live in this world. Okay, it provides vision and perspective. You have a kind of yeah, you see the forest and not only the trees. You have a perspective of you become more of a big picture person. It allows you for a better balance in your different roles: friend, family, colleague, professional. It takes discipline, and that's why it's difficult, but it promotes discipline, it creates discipline, it gives you control of your life mostly, and you end up managing fewer crises. So if we how can we get to this? Okay, to this kind of paradise of time management. Okay, what we want is to spend less time from here and spend it here, and we want to spend almost no time here because it's not very effective. Okay, so we want to move to spending time where it gives us the better benefits, where we get the best results. Okay, so if you remember this session, for the people who were connected here, or who you saw this video about the different vitamins of organization, we have the video in YouTube. If you haven't seen it, or you want to see it, remember that we have 4 roles that you need in an organization, and that we need as people. If we connect the dots, in general, the P role of performing is the classic, and the extreme is the long ranger character, is always doing things focused on the present. Like the table full of things, everything out of order, the truck kind of dirty inside with mate everywhere on the ground. And because I'm so busy, I have to do this right now. I have to do this right now. Okay? Or we are focused on administering things. If we live in quadrant 2, you focus more on entrepreneuring, on the vitamin E of planning, looking at opportunities, thinking ahead, preventing problems and conflicts, and then the vitamin I of integration. Okay, we're going to do a party. We're going to celebrate after the rhino translocation. I'm going to take a coffee with the mayor. So now we are connecting things that we saw before with what we're seeing today, okay? So what I want to offer you is the tips that I've been kind of identifying so we can spend more time in quadrant 2, okay? But also it's good to come back. The higher we are in the organization, the more important this becomes because the more pressures we're going to get. And the first thing is to assume that it's your responsibility to have control of your life and your time. Nobody else is going to do it for you. And saying, no me da la vida, I don't have enough life, is not a good answer. Because if you're not able to order your life, who's going to do it for you? So be aware. Yes, Gerardo. Sí, sí.
I think that it depends on if you are seeing the big project or I don't know, a long way in long way in a long term, or if you are focusing your present. If you are in a long term way, it could be good. I don't have enough life to do what I want to do in conservation, but this is a good thing because I'm thinking far away from me. But if I'm thinking in my daily is bad because I'm overwhelmed.
I don't know if I understand it. I mean, the typical phrases "no me da la vida" is when someone says, "I haven't been able to answer this email," or "I cannot find time for a meeting in the next 3 weeks." So it's more about managing of agenda in the next days or weeks. Yeah, that's where the expression comes out. It's not long-term perspective. It's more about I cannot find time to do things that are important.
Mhm.
That's the typical phrase. I would like to attend the meeting on time management, but I cannot find the time for that because I have too much pressure. I would like, I mean, Chubika inviting me to Guyana. She's waiting for me there. I just need to get the plane. My bosses tell me that I can go. They tell me that maybe I should go, but I cannot find the time to do it. So that's kind of the feeling. Something that you want to do, but you cannot find the time to do. Okay. So the first thing is if you want to assume responsibility of your time and your agenda, first, it's important to be aware that there's going to be lots of pressure from outside to move out of quadrant 2. Okay? I mean, the bosses and our colleagues and society is not telling all the time, take your time, plan ahead and all that. The pressure is always do it now, do it now, do it now. We need results, we need results. So the reason why so many people live here is because there's lots of pressure to live there. And also the reason why many people live in a mix of 3 and 4 is because you have your telephone offering you stupid things that you don't really need, but they are tempting because it's easier to do that than the important things that are harder to do, and they are conflictive, they take energy, they are challenging. Okay, so the other thing is not having control of your life. This is my advice and my personal view. Okay, this is not science or religion. Not having control of your life, in my opinion, is not a sign of being a devoted professional. There is this kind of feeling. The Hollywood movies are an excellent representation of this. This thing of being a workaholic and working so many hours, in my opinion, and not having control of your life, doesn't have to be the sign of being a devoted professional. At the end, and this is something that we talked with the previous group, we are gonna be measured by what we deliver, but not so much about how many hours we put. The thing of hours is more an inside conversation that we have, but it isn't like we are being watched by some kind of big brother of our bosses all the time. I mean, and if we are watched, particularly in our organizations and with the relations that we have, where we don't have to go and put a card at 8 a.m. and then we leave at 2 p.m. with the card and all that. The people are watching the results that we produce, the outcomes, not how many hours we put. Okay. And the other thing, in my opinion, is saying I'm sorry all the time is not good enough. I mean, there is this so many people, and sometimes we do it. I'm sorry, I would have done that, but I couldn't. I mean, the third time that you say I'm sorry, either you stop saying it or you change it, or just but just saying I'm sorry is not a solution. Okay. So we need to take control of our time and energy. There's going to be pressure in the other direction. Being totally overwhelmed with things, I don't think is a good indicator of being a very good professional. And saying I'm sorry all the time doesn't really solve the problem. Okay. Of course, if we're going to take control of our lives and our agenda, the most important thing is to know what's important for you. Okay. And what's important at different levels as a person, as a whole person. It isn't like we are worker and family member and friend or individual. Everything is together, okay? So we have different roles, work, family, yourself, friends, colleagues, neighbors, whatever. The first thing is to know what's important. If we don't know what's important, how are we going to take decisions? How are we going to look for things that are important and not urgent if we don't know what's important, okay? Something that may be useful, and that came, I was reading the Covey's book on effective people and the 7 habits. 2 pages is very important to write your own personal mission, your mission statement, because that will guide you in life. And you write it down, you think about it, and you review it. I'm reading it and I'm like, no, that sounds kind of too formal. I know what my mission statement is. I know what's important for me. I was thinking, this is kind of too American for me. But then for a moment I said, okay, I'm going to give it a try. I thought, I'm going to think about what would be my mission statement. Yeah, just to see what happens. No, not because I was convinced. And this is what happens in my case, okay? This is just an example. I mean, if each of you did the exercise, something different will come from each of you, okay? This is what defines what's important for us. Gilbert is coming now. Good. So this is what came out. To learn to improve the life of the people that surround me while I improve the state of the natural world. So I look at it kind of from outside, like, okay, this is interesting. Why did this come out? The first thing that caught my attention is to learn, to improve. Okay, so for me, it seemed to be obvious. It was implicit. I never really thought about it in an explicit way, that learning is very important. That I assume that I'm not the same person every year, that I have to put energy in improving myself. Like, okay, that's cool. Actually, that's what I do, and now I understand why. And then to improve the life of the people that surround me. Like, for some reason, this came before the typical work role. Okay, what's the people that surround me? Okay, first, wife, daughters, closer family, friends, colleagues, neighbors, and you start like seeing circles. It's like, okay, so it seems that for me, I need to put energy in making people close to me happier, help the people in things that I can do. And then while I improve the state of the natural world, okay, this is my profession, okay? If I were a musician, maybe I would have written while I deliver moments of happiness to as many people as possible through live concerts or whatever. Okay. So the interesting thing is, by doing this, something became more clear to me than I thought. I never really thought about it. And nowadays, when I have to take decisions of saying yes or no to things, I ask myself, how does this match my mission? And it helps me to take decisions. For example, if someone asks me to do something and I see that that person is kind of far away from my circles of the people that surround me, it's like, okay, it's not very much my problem. If I feel that something that is related with work, but it doesn't create a significant effect on the natural world, like, I don't know, attending a Zoom meeting on the new categories of the IUCN. Is it interesting? Yeah. Is it really relevant for my work? Not really. Does the people around me does it help with the people that surround me? No, probably the opposite. I could spend that hour with my kids or with my wife, or I could spend that hour running and taking care of myself better than hearing about the new categories of the IUCN. So it helped me. So the second thing is to know what's important for you at different levels or at different roles. The third thing, I think this is critical, is to learn to say no. Okay? But we need to learn to say no based on what's important. If we don't know what's important, it becomes capricious. Okay? So don't be scared of being unpopular. Saying no in some situations is not the easiest thing to do. Okay? Uh, for example, while I was living in Socorro, every 1 or 2 months, there will be the birthday of someone of the workers, and they will invite us for an asado, a barbecue. And I went to a couple of them. There was a moment in which it was clear for me that my presence didn't really make a difference, that I was there or not didn't make a difference. It kind of bored me a lot because it was kind of a feeling of Groundhog Day, like the same thing again and again and again, like I've been here before. And I said, okay, I'm going to be watching a movie instead of doing that because I think it's a better way to use my energy. Was it popular to say no? Yeah, at the beginning, the people is like, why Ignacio doesn't come to the birthday parties like everybody? It's like, that's the way I am. In general, if you are firm but respectful, this is also related to what Xavier said about being soft with the relation, but kind of tough with the content. The people, they end up understanding and respecting you. Explain your reasons. I was invited by a colleague from the United Kingdom to be part of the board of a foundation that works with rewilding. Being part of a board in a UK foundation takes a lot of energy compared to the American boards or the Spanish boards. I said, I thought about it. I said, give me some time to think it. I started doing probably my calculations based on this. And I said, no, there's a better way to use my energy that, to invest it in things that are more important or more urgent. Okay. I explained the reasons, and I don't think there should be a problem with that. Okay. It's better, in my opinion, my advice is better to manage low intensity conflict, like saying no to some people, than losing control of your life and your energy and your relationships because you just can't say no to things that are not important to you. So learning to say no is something that is critical at a certain level of pressure and responsibility. So by doing that, by learning to say no, we learn to say no to these things, particularly the big pressure. I mean, the pressure here is lower, but doing urgent things that are not important, someone calling you, answering an email that you don't need to answer. One of the, probably that's something it happens to you, this culture of oversharing emails. I mean, Gerardo wants to coordinate something with Lucas, and you copy 3 more people just to keep them informed, but they don't have to really take a part of the decision. So 3 people spending 20 minutes reading the email, then one of them answers. Maybe you wouldn't expect him that answer. Then you have to spend another 20 or 30 minutes replying that answer. So it's just, minimize WhatsApp groups, oversharing on emails, and if you have a telephone call or an audio that is not urgent, you will listen or you will answer whenever you have time. Okay. So the other thing is to plan accordingly. Okay. Don't let yourself go. because if you let yourself go and you don't plan, you're gonna be drown to quadrant one, two, no, two, one, three, and a leader to four, which is procrastinating.
Procrastination.
Procrastinating. It's so difficult always. Procrastinating. So we plan at different scales, okay? And this also, I think maybe that was related with what you were saying, Gerardo. In my case, for example, at the project scale is typically in my mind 3 years, okay? If I hadn't planned for 3 years, we wouldn't be connected now. So I was able to think about the training program for 3 years to convince a donor, please, let's invest not only in the first year, but in 3 years so we can do a prototype, we can test it, we can improve it. And then if it goes well, we keep going, we adapt. So 3 years in my mind is what I call mid-term planning, okay? For example, maybe Gerardo is thinking, okay, I'm going to be for the next 3 years, I'm going to play this role in the rewilding team, but then I would like to change a role or maybe go to another country or maybe to do a postdoc or whatever. So, and Ian is in charge of tourism, but maybe he's getting ready to be the director of the park, or so 3 years is good for that, okay? Then you have your annual planning, which is the results that you committed to provide in the year. Typically, they are tied to a budget. So you plan for the next year, you get the funding for that. Then every 3 months, you have quarterly meetings and sessions to assess how the year is going, to discuss with your team, and then weekly planning. And that's what we are going to focus, okay? Because Covey talks about weekly planning, and then I found out that actually that's similar to the way I work. So it wasn't alien to me. The good thing about weeks is that they are very natural to us, okay? You have 7 days. Typically, you go from Monday to Friday, high intensity. It's kind of a social agreement. It's not a natural law, but it's a social agreement that Saturday and Sunday you slow down, you dedicate more time to other aspects of your life, family, football, whatever. So planning at a weekly scale is very practical at the lowest level. At the daily scale is too small and it doesn't give you much room. Okay, but at the same time, when we plan, we have to plan and combine all our roles. Okay, work, family, community, friends, yourself. It's very important to plan time for yourself. Exercise, thinking, we're saying, I don't know, meditation, dancing, whatever you feel that is important for you to sharpen your axe, to refuel, to recharge your batteries. Okay. So this, what you see here, this is an example of the way I work for the week. Here it says tasks for the week, and then every Sunday in the afternoon, if I find the right time, and Sundays are kind of good for me for that, or early morning on Monday, I start writing down the things that I have to do and to finish during that week. Here it says connecting this foundation with a donor, Parker. Activating the group, the WhatsApp group of people of effective conservation training, contracts of speakers for effective conservation training, a website that we are doing for Alto Tajo, posts that we have to think on social media, reading an article by someone, a meeting with a donor, a trail that we have to finish in one of the parks, a refuge that we are planning to improve. So you write down the things. And what I like of this, you write them down, and once you finish them, I mark them. Okay? What you see there in green are the things that I completed. So by Friday, And the moment I complete something, I mark it. So by Friday or Saturday, I look at this and I have a feeling of accomplishment. Okay? And then I see that the things that I couldn't do, I pass them to the next week. This is another week. So this gives you a map, a roadmap of what to do during the week, which is something manageable. It's flexible enough. I don't say if I have to do it on Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday or when I have to do it. It's something that I'm going to do during the week. And this is something that we were talking with Itzy in the morning. What I do, in my case, I combine this with the Google Calendar, because in the Google Calendar, I have, okay, Zoom meeting with effective conservation training at 4 p.m. Online meeting. So in the Google Calendar, I mark those things that they're urgent, in the sense that they have to happen in a certain time. Those are moments that you reserved and you cannot move. If I have to take a plane, for example, today I have to drive. The field trips, I mark them there on the Google agenda. And these are things that it doesn't matter if I do them in the morning, in the afternoon, Monday or Wednesday or whatever. This is the things that I do during the week. So, yeah, Ricardo.
No, sorry.
This is something. Yes.
No, very, very fast. You use the Google Calendar. I discovered something these days. I use it a lot as well, and I need this monthly or weekly planning myself. And there is a place in the Google Agenda. You can create lists similar to Trello or different Canvas or something like this, but it's inside and connected to your agenda. For me, it has been very useful this year. I discovered this tool now and I'm using it a lot. So you can put time, people involved, step-by-step, descriptions, really good. Like this, but in the Google, so you can have it in your phone as well or something like that.
Yeah, I think this is just an example, but I mean, the main concept is that you spend time either on Sunday or Monday to plan your week and to list the things that you want to do, that you want to produce. And the other advice is mark them when you are done it. So by Friday or Saturday, you have a sense of accomplishment. Because if not, we feel that the sea is endless, there's too much water, and we will never finish taking water out of the sea. And we feel frustrated. But if we have a plan for each week and we see that how much we have accomplished during the week, not the things that are left to be done, because that never ends. There are always more things coming every week, every month. But if we look at the things that we committed ourselves to do, and we see that we've done 80% of them, 90%, 3/4, it gives us a sense of relief. Okay, I mean, we achieved this. In chemical terms, this is just a shot of dopamine, because dopamine is about the feeling of, okay, I achieved what I wanted to do. So this is a tool that you can use. I mean, I think the critical thing also related with what Ricardo says, for some people it's more comfortable to do it on a cell phone. Some people feel more comfortable on a computer. I mean, this very analogic thing of me doing this here, writing it down on a pen, and then using this, it gives me a sense of being natural and it's more pleasant. But that depends on each person, okay? So the other thing is to move from quadrant 1 of crisis, I mean, important and urgent, to quadrant 2, delegate. I mean, we don't need to do everything. So again, this is important if you are at mid-level or high-level management. If you are at the lowest level, you cannot delegate very much. But we don't need to do everything in that sense. Yeah.
And I think that also ask for extra resources, because sometimes they ask for many things and we try to do all by yourself, and instead to say no, you will say, okay, I could do it, but I need an extra person, I need extra budget or wherever. That gives you extra time to do important things, especially if you can delegate some of the tasks to anybody else. That is things that I'm using.
Totally. I mean, there are moments in which the response is saying no, and in other moments the best strategy is to negotiate. But to negotiate, we need to know what's important. We need to know that we are living in category one all the time. Is okay. I need more resources to provide the results that you're expecting from me. So I'm not saying no. I'm saying yes, and I need your help in that regard. Yeah, Chubika.
I think Ignacio, like I'm struggling with that weekly list because I have a list that I make every week, but there's some tasks that get pushed over every week. Because I'm getting the emails done and I'm getting all of the other things that I need to do. But I think the bigger things, like the things that I have to, like, review a document and make amendments, but it's a heavy review, where you have to kind of rewrite stuff. I find that those tasks gets pushed. I'm pushing it the next week because I'm doing everything else on my list. And then, I'm in third week, I'm at the end of the month and it's still sitting on my list. So I'm not really, that's something that I'm struggling with the weekly list. I think I do it a little differently from you, and maybe that's not helping me as well because I use the stickies on my computer. And when I finish a task, I just pull it off the list, but then I just add whatever comes in, whether it's coming through my email or whatever else. So then I always have a heavy list. So I'm not really sure, how I can improve that because unless I carve out some time in this week to say, okay, I'm not going to be dealing with this, but I'll focus a day just to get, some work done in a document or something like that. I don't know.
My guess is that for something like this to work, is that you have to have the experience and the pragmatism of when you do the list on Sunday or Monday, the list is pragmatic enough to be achievable during the week. You are smart enough to put the most urgent things and some things that are not so urgent, but you have the feeling that if you keep postponing, you will postpone them forever. So be pragmatic. Also leave always enough room for surprises because there are always things that happen during the week that you haven't planned. So it's an art probably, and at the same time, combined to that, you need to say no to things like don't. I'm not gonna do that report. That's not something that I should be doing. Or if we go to quadrant three, I'm sure that we are all invited to meetings that the people invite you, they don't even think in a very deliberate way that you should be there. They take for granted that you should be invited. And you just need to say, no, I'm not, I don't need to be there. I don't need to be there. The right people are already there. Tell me what you have decided later. Give me a summary, but I don't need to spend 1 hour to be informed of something. Just tell me what you decided. I don't need to be part of the decision. So I think the art is to be pragmatic enough to make a list that is achievable, and not get into the habit of making unachievable lists, because then what should be exceptional, which is leaving several things undone, it becomes the norm and the normal, and then it loses all sense. It becomes kind of an artifact that you just do. If you create your own commitment and you violate your commitment every week, it is worthless. So that would be my advice on that regard. Maybe Ricardo, who's raising the hand there, has some advice in that regard. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think not an advice, but I feel the same, Chubik. I have very similar situations here. This is one example here. A paper that sits in the side of my computer, something I have to do. I have been trying to find time to do it for the past 3 weeks. And sometimes what happens to me is that I have trouble to estimate how much time I will take to actually doing this. You know, it's not urgent. I know I have to do it, but sometimes in my head it will take a lot of time, and in my week planning, I don't have this amount of time available, so I postpone it to the next week, and then something comes up, and I never find the time. Something that has been helping me is to break down the task, Juvika. So if you're not going to accomplish everything in one goal, just take a little time, half an hour, to understand the task, how much time it actually takes. I've got surprised many times that I thought something was going to take me 4 hours, and I've done it in half an hour because it wasn't that difficult, and I could be more. Or like Ignacio said, sometimes just say that, just understand that it's not going to happen. It could be easier as well.
Gilbert, good to see you.
Hello.
Hi everyone, sorry I joined in late. Yeah, just wanted to contribute to the same. I think what has helped me in the past, though I still struggle with the same. I make a list, sometimes I don't get to do everything that's on the list, and it keeps carrying forward. But I think I read something at some point that said when you do your to-do list, you also need to allocate time to it, the same way you plan for your meetings, the same way that you need to allocate some time to it. So if you do your to-do list, put a date that you actually set time aside for it, and put a time, be very precise with your time, such that if you're going to be planning for anything else, you would have allocated that slot to complete that task. I think I've applied that to some of the things that I've been doing, and it's really helped, but I haven't been consistent. That's been my challenge.
So it has worked for you, Gilbert, in that sense.
Yeah, it has worked. In the time that I've been consistent with it, it has worked, but I get derailed sometimes because of the unforeseen circumstances sometimes. But allocating a specific time slot and the date, you allocate a date as well as the time, attach a time to it to attend to it.
Yeah, I mean, actually, if I look at Covey's book, he works more on that regard. I find that a little too structured, but that depends on the personality of each one. Maybe I take a very intuitive measure of time, and I create a package that in my mind is going to work well, but it depends of how. Again, we get into the world of colors, and if you are more golden, you are more structured and things like that. But whatever works for you, I think that's the important thing. And another piece of advice is don't overcomplicate things. And I mean, this is not a criticism, but Ricardo sent me a proposal for something that we're working together that he didn't need to invest that time in writing that. I was thinking, I mean, he has so much to do, and he wrote it at a level of detail that I thought, I mean, we don't need so much detail to work it, and I could have done half of it. So sometimes we in our, especially if we live in quadrant one, we lose perspective, and we want to do everything kind of very, very well done. And sometimes like, no, I could do this much easier. It's a way to delegate. I'm going to make it simple. I will send a draft. We'll start with there. So sometimes we overcomplicate our life by doing things. Someone asks us for a comment on a report, and we start correcting the grammar and the dots and the commas. It's like they weren't waiting for that. They just wanted to know the opinion. And you do a whole review of the thing. It's like, I just wanted to know what you thought about it. So that's also maybe something to think about. Ian, did you want to say something? Your hand was up.
Yeah, I think I wanted also to contribute on the way we have tried to do, but anyway, our way it's work more on group level, not on much personal level, because we always have the same issue, I think, of what to do list, and we end up postponing on how can't do everything on the same week, and that's why I liked your comment, which we are trying to do here. It's to try to also, when we do on what to do lists, to add some free time, which can help when we are running out of time for other stuff. But like as in Akajera, we have created like each department have this PowerPoint of upcoming week lists. We don't do on person, actually we share to each other, to all. So every week we present that this is my next week plan, and every Friday we do a meeting of how the week was, what did we achieve, what we didn't manage to achieve, and even talking about the plan for the next week, and share the PowerPoint. On that PowerPoint we always have down page the challenge and the proposed solutions. So whatever we always don't manage to finish, we always add it down on challenge. If we have any idea of solution, we add it, or someone else can help us to propose a solution on that. And we also have this culture of communicating during the week and saying, guys, I'm struggling with all of this. I'm running out of time. This is project are coming was not planned. And then sometimes, because we are in a group, someone can say, okay, this is more operational, maybe let me take it out, and then can relief on my head for someone else. So I've seen sometimes with this challenge of overwhelmed communication with our team sometimes help, because someone in the team sometimes propose an easy way to do or a solution to do, and it helped me so much in the pack. But also we moved that from only ourselves, even the people who are under us, we ask them to give us their upcoming week activity, which help us to know who is the one who not very busy, and we can allocate certain activity to him when we are finding ourselves very busy in time to delegate to the team. So I think when we have a chance to be in the team environment, engage the team for the challenge we are dealing with, and sometimes they do help us to come with the easy proposition or move some weight of problems to our head.
Okay. Does that work for you? I mean, listening to it, it sounds like a lot of time investment and energy, but does that make your life easier as a group?
Yeah, as a group, we help because usually you avoid someone to deal with everything, because most of the things we do here, it's connected somehow. So that's why it can become easier for someone who seems to have a spare time to help, or the idea. But the list we always do, and we follow the list of what we have done. And I think it's important always to spare time, free time, because at the end of the day, there will be always something unplanned which will come, surprises, and then that's where we look, also evaluate our list and say, what can I be able to move in the next week? But when it's still happening all the time, to end up affecting something, and that's where we recap and engage with the team if there is any advice or any way we can get the support or something.
My only advice from what I heard is I will try to avoid sending messages during the weekends about, I wasn't able to do this during the week, help me next week. I mean, I will do that as a very exceptional level, but receiving messages on a Sunday from a colleague in a regular level, like I wasn't able to do that, we need help, blah, 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 it could be quite stressful, but that's my feeling, because it will stop you from disconnecting. I don't mean to disconnect 100% from your work, because we are always thinking about things, but having discussions with your colleagues about agenda during the weekends, I will try to avoid that. I mean, having your own, your personal discussion, good, but receiving input from the other people at almost every weekend, that could be stressful. But that's my feeling.
I didn't say the weekend, it's weekday. We do on Friday, because the way we do, except for any special emergency, you can contact someone later at night or out of work hours. But all we do, it's always between Monday to Friday in work time.
I thought it was Sunday. Okay, good. I don't know if Lucas or Gerardo is raising the hand there, or who is raising the hand.
I think that it helps me organize the task in like similar to the quadrants. It's like the quadrant 2 task quadrant 1 and quadrant 3. Knowing yourself, which time of the day you are more, I don't know, brilliant or you are burnt out, and use your best moment for the quadrant 2. And then when you are middle tired, use quadrant 1. And then if you have enough time and you don't have your full mind for important things, use it for quadrant 3. At least I did that, and it's helpful. At the same time, if you have all your days with too many things to do, maybe you need more people in your team, and it's a problem of your organization, not about you. So because you need to have some time to the planning thing, and to avoid to always kick out the planning things to the future, I try to do at least something. If I probably important task could maybe will take me 1 week. Well, I try to do some paragraph, something to try to move on with that task.
Like Ricardo said,
to have the whole time to do it, but just start and keep going in little pieces at least, because it's in best of time for the future.
I mean, I think something important, because we keep always thinking about work, is this thing about roles. I mean, when I plan my week, I mean, there are always assumptions in these stories that we are telling, okay? My assumption is that for me to be effective in my work, I have to have a balanced life. That's my assumption, which means I need to take time and energy for myself, for my family, because if one leg of the chair is too short, the chair is not going to be balanced, okay? So what I don't write here is that probably 3 days during the week, either I'm going to be running or playing basketball or doing something like that, because I don't need to write that down, because that's part of my inner plan, okay? It doesn't say that on Saturday I'm going to do paella with my family, because that's part of my balance, okay? So of course, when we talk about leaving a space on the agenda, it's not only about leaving a space for surprises at work and for things that are unplanned. To leave a space for these roles, okay, that are important for our balance. Whatever we think is important for us, watching a movie, playing guitar, reading, going to the city, running, meditate, whatever, cooking, this thing of sharpening the axe, okay? So that's also what happens to me if I put that on a Google or a computer or on a notebook here. It sounds offensive to me, okay? Like I spend time with my family. Like what? I mean, it's something that should be inside here. I write these things down because they don't come natural to me. The others should come natural. I mean, those are clearly important. And probably one of our main challenge is that because we have pressure for the important and urgent, and the work tends to be important and urgent, and our family or ourselves, taking care of ourselves, they are not asking all the time, so they are not so urgent, we forget about them. But it's important to be aware of that if we are always working and we don't spend quality time with the people that we care, something bad is going to happen for us, for them, and the relation in itself. So that's also part of the plan. We didn't talk about it, but it should be here somewhere. But for me to put it on a Google, whatever, it would be offensive. Paella with the family. Love my kids for half an hour. but that should be part of our plan, okay, of our balance. So these are the concepts that I wanted to share with you, okay? First, to be aware that we need to take control of our time and life. Nobody else is going to do it for ourselves, and the pressure is going to go in the other direction, okay? So the pressure is not neutral, it goes in the other direction. There's going to be pressures to lose control. Second, we can only control our agenda if we know what's important, because if not, the decisions are totally capricious. They are random. Learn to say no to things. And I think something that Gerardo added is not say no, it's negotiate. Learn when you say, okay, to achieve what you're asking me, this is what I need. I want to do it, but I need this. How to say that and when to say that and to whom to say it is just an art in itself, okay? Then we need to plan, and we discuss a lot about planning, okay? And this thing that we mentioned in a very short way, to delegate. I mean, we need to trust our team members, and there are things that we don't need to do. I mean, okay, you write a proposal, it's ready, you delegate the design. You're not going to write it and design it and then everything. If you don't know how to translate it, delegate on someone, okay? So that's kind of what we're discussing today. And a way for me to end this is leadership, because we talk about leadership in this training. Among other things, is the art of setting time for those tasks that are important, but they are not urgent. That's part of our role as leaders. Why? Because if we don't do that, first, we don't perform very well. Second, we get burned out, and we may leave the race before we get to our destination.